Okay, so a couple of others. Okay, now this is Hans. Remember Hans Eysenck, Eysenck. Remember we talked about him when we talked about personality, and he said introversion, extroversion, and stability, instability. He was one of the first people to really question the effectiveness of psychotherapy, because I don't know if this cliche was around when he was questioning it or not, but what heals all wounds? Time. That's a saying, right? Time heals all wounds. And so the question is this: is it really the psychotherapy that is helping people to get over and to learn to deal with their symptoms, or is it a passage of time? Because again, remember that we talked about time-limited therapy versus open-ended sessions. And if you went back to Freud's time, what you would have found was that it was pretty much open-ended, so there was no end date in sight. So again, if you're in therapy 3 days a week for 6 months or a year or 2 years, how do we know that it was the therapy that was working for you? And how do we know it wasn't simply a matter of time, right? So for instance, people, if and when there's a death in your family, you will grieve. Your other family members will grieve. How long you grieve for is a completely personal thing, completely independent thing, and not to say that the sadness and the despondency ever completely goes away, but what happens eventually over the course of time? You want me to say it? Okay, when there's a death in your family, each and every person is going to grieve for a certain amount of time. And it's a completely independent thing, right? One person might grieve for a week, another person might grieve for a month, 6 months, 6 weeks, who knows? But eventually, the sadness and the despondency will never completely go away. But eventually, over the course of time, what happens? It gets a little bit better, right? The grieving is not nearly as dramatic, or whatever the word is that you like to use. So what you would need to do is compare the people who are in therapy versus the people who are not in therapy to determine whether or not spontaneous remission is part of what is going on. Right? You're just looking at the average. So if you've got 30 people who are just on a waiting list and 30 people who are going through therapy, and they go through it for the same amount of time, again, we're not interested, unfortunately, statistically, we're not interested in each individual person. We're interested in them as a group of 30 versus a group of 30 is what we're going to be interested in to determine whether or not therapy is effective or not. Okay, sorry. Yeah, but again, remember, it averages itself out is the idea, right? Now, unless you were doing a case study. If you were doing a case study, then we're going to be interested in the individual people. But if we're looking statistically wise and you get enough people, then the idea is that all of those things average themselves out and you'll be able to compare. And again, remember if you think back to what the definition of psychotherapy is, and remember I told you those 3 key words: facilitate positive changes, and you just said yourself, works better for some people. Those were your words or something like that. Again, what does work better really mean, right? Again, that's a very subjective type of thing.